The first week of college can be so exciting, motivating. You get your syllabus and assignments from every class. You know what's expected. You feel like you're going to be on top of everything. You're going to get stuff done early. You're going to ace every class because you're going to be so organized. And then you get to week 2 and week 3 and week 4, and the farther in you get, the less of that feeling you have. And as assignments start to actually come and you start working on them, the less exciting and fun they might seem, and other things seem so much more appealing. Wouldn't it be so much more fun to go to a movie with friends than do a worksheet or write a paper, right? Well, that is a common problem, especially for college freshmen and even college seniors, really. Even in your master's, doctorate, and life in general, we just tend to procrastinate. This lecture is to help you understand maybe why you procrastinate and what you can do about it so that it doesn't become a huge problem as you go through college. Some of you already have a pretty good habit of procrastinating. Maybe all through high school it worked out great. You tell yourself you work great under pressure, or things just turn out fine when you do it at the last minute. And, sometimes you'll be fine with that in college too. I'm not going to say it doesn't necessarily work sometimes, maybe most of the time for you, but I want you to think about this. Even if you can get away with it and come out with A's or decent grades in college, most of you have the vision that when you graduate college you're going to be getting a job. Is that really what you want to be offering your employers? Is that who you are? Are you going to walk in and say, you tell me what to do, and just before you think it's going to fall apart, I'll get it done? Is that what you would want if you were an employer? Or would you want somebody who's on top of it, who doesn't keep you stressed, wondering if it's going to work out constantly? Now, the fact that you procrastinate does not mean that you are inherently lazy or inefficient. It is a habit. And that habit has some specific origin, and it is something that you can overcome. So here's the most important question. Why do you procrastinate? Let's talk about some possibilities. Possibility number 1, fear. You're scared of something. Now I know a lot of you are laughing and saying, I'm not scared of anything, and you look at this list and you think, no, I'm not afraid of any of those. But first, you're going to have to be honest with yourself while you listen to this lecture and really think about these things and consider what I say about them. Are you a perfectionist? Because if you are, you fear failure. You are scared that it's not going to turn out right or wonderful or better than everybody else's, and so you want to put it off because you have this chance that it might not be perfect, and you're such a perfectionist. It's a good reason to procrastinate, right? Okay, so fear of failure, that makes kind of sense. But fear of success? Who fears success? Well, you fear success if you envision yourself becoming a workaholic and becoming consumed with something that you're working on, and you want it to be so great that you spend hours and hours and hours, and you know that it's going to turn out great, but that's because you're going to put so much work into it. And, there's another possibility that if you spend a whole lot of time on it because you start early and then you get obsessed with it, then your writing might actually improve and become great, and because of that, you're expected to write better in the future. And who wants high expectations when you could skim by with low expectations and do fine? Oh my goodness. So if you fear success, perhaps you know that you have some workaholic type tendencies, or you have the attitude that you know that if people expect more of you, you have to work harder, and who wants to do that? How about this? Maybe you're not a perfectionist or a workaholic, maybe you're a rebel. And if you spend your time doing this paper that somebody else has told you what to do, you are losing some degree of independence. Because you go to college and your teacher tells you that this is what you're going to do and this is how you're going to do it, and you just don't like being told that. So, by completing the assignment or by working on it, especially putting a whole lot of effort, you're losing some independence because you're being told what and how to do something. Ugh, that is very annoying, isn't it? Now, a lot of people admit to this fear of being alone, but they usually associate that with a need to be dating or have a significant other or looking for an opportunity for marriage, not for procrastinating with papers. But if you have that fear of being alone, you literally just don't want to be alone. And my gosh, writing a paper is pretty dang solitary, isn't it? You have to spend a lot of time on your own, just pulling your own thoughts out of your own head, and who wants to do that when you could be with a group of friends having fun somewhere or just socializing, hanging out with people? So much better. And you know, if you put it off, the longer you put it off, the more you need people to be there to help you and coach you, and you can fall to one of your friends, please help me, I need you. And then it's no longer quite so solitary because you have somebody to lean on. That's a lot more fun and exciting, right? And if nothing else, the actual procrastination itself and the feeling that you get gives you some company, almost like an imaginary friend. Isn't that kind of weird? But think about it, it's true. Somebody always nagging you or telling you that you need to do something. Kind of weird, but this may be you. On the other hand, maybe you like being alone. You don't really like all the social stuff, and it's all around you, and people want you to be social, and you just really don't want to be. You just want to be off to yourself. And you know, the longer you have something that you have to work on, the longer you have an excuse. If you start that paper early and you finish it early, you're not going to have that excuse to get away from people. So, you, instead of attaching yourself to society, to other people, you would rather give yourself an out. Use that paper or whatever it is that you're procrastinating to say, oh, I really have to work on this. Whether you actually do that or not is doubtful, but you always have that excuse as long as you've been putting it off. Now, I've already touched on perfectionism, but it's huge, and I really think that it can be an enemy of true education, because education is improving in knowledge, understanding, and skills, and if you're a perfectionist, well, then you think you're already perfect at it, right? Or at least you want other people to think that you're perfect at it. But if you're perfect at it, why do you need to improve? In fact, why don't you just go get the job? Why bother going to college and spending so much time and money just trying to prove that you already know something or can already do something great? The learning process involves a little bit of failure. It really does. Not necessarily that it's okay to make an F, as in fail on an assignment, but you can't expect yourself to be perfect at everything the first time you do it. It's okay to learn. Give yourself permission to learn. But when it comes to procrastination, perfectionism can be a little bit convenient. Because remember, you're really just trying to prove yourself to everybody else. You want everybody else to think you're perfect. Well, if you procrastinate on a paper and you're a perfectionist, you have a great out no matter what. For example, if you get a wonderful grade, then you can pat yourself on the back and tell everybody, yeah, and I only did that in a couple of hours. But if you get a really bad grade on it, then you can tell everybody, oh, well, I only did that in a couple of hours. So you can have the same excuse either way, and you are covered. You're safe. You don't have to worry about what other people think. Of course, you also don't have to worry about going through the struggle of learning. Now, if this situation describes you, it's probably pretty obvious. You don't like your writing. Why do something that you're not comfortable doing? Or why do it early and know that you need to reread it and see it multiple times before you turn it in and know that you won't write it? Especially if you don't know how to fix it, then what good does it do to get it done early so that you can proofread and edit and make it better and better if you don't know how to make it better? So why bother? Just write it at the last minute and turn it in and never look at it again. Isn't that much more comfortable? How about this one? Does this not apply to anybody? I mean, raise your hand on how many of these things apply to you. Do you have a job? Do you go to school? Do you have a family? How about church? Social groups? Illness? Events? Appointments? Arguments to settle, especially if you're a parent, but also a friend. Chores? Projects, hobbies, and the list could go on and on and on. And if you think about it, every single one of you have these huge lists of things that take up your time. The thing is, this applies to everybody. Everybody is busy, so busy that we don't really have time to be at school, do we? Oh my gosh. But you know what? We are in school, and we do have these commitments that we've made, and we've said, you know what? I'm going to set aside time, and somehow I'm going to figure out how to make all of this work. And now you get to figure out how to make it work. So the whole busy thing, I totally get it. I'm very busy. Yes, everybody's busy. When you tell me you're busy, I totally understand. But the problem is everybody is busy. I mentioned this at the beginning, the very beginning of the presentation, that sometimes procrastination works. You may have had that experience in high school. You procrastinated all the time and you always got good grades anyway. Well, for one thing, their expectations were a lot lower than they are in college, but still, I'm not saying that it won't work. Sometimes in college, you get a good grade even after you procrastinated and it makes you feel so good, and then the next time you say, well, it worked last time, I don't need to do it till the night before. Well, fine, but you know what? Sometimes you're going to realize that you underestimated what all you had to do and it's not going to work, and even if it always works, is that really what you want to sell to an employer later? Is that who you want to be? Alright, we covered the why, now we're going to talk about the how. How do you procrastinate? I know it really sucks to be honest with yourself, especially with things that you know you might have a problem with but don't like to admit, but I'm going to ask you some more questions and really try to be honest with yourself. Do you like to ignore a task or assignment? Just pretend you don't really have to do it. Your friends say, hey, are you busy? Can you do something with us? You say, oh, I'm not busy. I have nothing to do. And, you know, really you only have like 5 papers due. But, you know, let's pretend. Sometimes it can be really easy to over or underestimate the degree of difficulty that a task involves. I mean, you get an assignment and just based on the overall assignment, it looks pretty easy. So, you know, you can do that in a couple hours. Why do you need to worry about that for a week or a month? But then when the night before comes and you sit down to do the assignment, you realize, oh, wow, you should have gone to the library and you should have got sources, and you were supposed to write some reviews of those sources and do some other steps along the way, and you're going to have to turn in all these extra things. Who knows what? There could be all kinds of extra things that you had to do that just absolutely require longer than 2 hours. So you spend all night working on it, or just get a bad grade. And maybe even if you spend all night doing it, you still can't do it well, or maybe not completely. So you really need to understand the assignment and what's required and expected in it before you decide how much time you can wait before you start. Maybe you think that ultimately it just doesn't matter that much. I mean, it could only pull your grade down a couple of points. You know, in college, a lot of assignments are worth a whole lot. You're going to get assignments that might be 50% of your grade in some classes. In this class, you'll get assignments, papers that are worth 25% of your grade sometimes. In some classes. I use this for more than one class. But your assignments may actually hurt your grade multiple letter grades by not doing them or not doing well on them. So don't assume that it's not going to matter. Even if an assignment is only worth a couple of points to your overall grade, that assignment usually is intended to contribute to a much larger assignment. That by doing the small assignment, you'll do better on a bigger assignment. So really never underestimate. Always assume that the teacher has a good reason for making you do something. Procrastination part 2 is going to start right here.